Okay, so first thing we want to do before we set any teeth is make sure these record bases are very well made. Especially for the ones that you use for an exam. I know Nate and probably I know myself and probably Nate use the same record base for exams over and over again. So if you make a really good one, then you can use it over and over again. And really good means that it fits well, it doesn't rock, it has pretty good retention, it's polished nicely. You want to polish all these peripheral areas right here, and you also want to make these where you're going to set the teeth paper thin. And I mean really thin. And one of the ways you can check to see your thickness is basically holding it up to the light and looking through. Make sure you have a nice even color, and then obviously here where it's really thin is going to look a lot wider than the rest because it's going to be a lot thinner. So the next thing I do after you make sure it's not rocked is I want to draw a line here on the inner land. Basically just a line marking the border of the inner part of the land there. And then when I put this on, I want to make sure that I can see it. So here you notice I can still see the inner part of the land. So the way we do it is when you set anterior teeth, you want to set 2 at a time. And actually this goes for most of the teeth, even the posteriors I set 2 at a time. For the anteriors, what we're going to try and do is when we set the teeth, we want to make sure we need to have a reference point. And so some people like to use the pin. They look straight down the pin until they can't see any of the walls of the pin. But I prefer to see when you're looking here, you're looking, it gives you a weird angle to where you're looking down that way. I think it's too much of an angle and it gives the teeth kind of too much facial tilt. So I like to look at this hole right here and basically looking straight down this hole so you can't see any of the threads. I think it's a more straight on view. It gives you a better and more accurate setting of the anterior teeth. So now we're ready to set the teeth, and there's 2 things you can do. I like to do just the full piece of wax. Nate likes to cut these in strips. We just cut it from the bottom there. You can do whatever's easier for you. I'm going to use this because it's smaller right now. So make sure that you light your torch, and you should probably keep your torch out when you're not using it because I've burned my arm quite a few times. So take a piece of wax and you want to heat it up. Not too much. You really don't need it very melted. It just needs to be nice and soft. It shouldn't stick to your fingers, so I'm waiting till it's just pliable but not sticky. I don't want it to stick. So then I'll take the 2 teeth and place them in the wax, and then I basically press them down here. So one of the other things you want to do is, I forgot to mention, is you want to mark your midline, because that's going to tell you where your teeth should be. So that's about the midline there. That's going to help me line up, basically the center of these teeth. So after I get those in, I'm going to stare down this hole and kind of see. I want to make sure that I'm lining it up with the midline so that the teeth are in line with the midline. But then I'm also looking down this hole so I don't see any threads. And I want this facial surface. I don't want to see much of this facial surface, and I want to make sure that they stay inside. I want to make sure I can see the inside of this land at all times. So try and set it up, and then I also put it down to make sure that I'm in the right I'm at the right vertical height. So what I'm going to do is, obviously these are not at the right vertical height, so I'll take them down. Sometimes it helps if you just keep it a little high in occlusion, so when you press it down they'll go where they're supposed to be. But that moves them a lot. And so what I'll do now is, now that they're kind of on there, I like to take it and I like to lute it. Now, I like to keep the wax master right around 60 because it's hot enough to melt the wax, but it's not too hot where the wax stays melted for a long period of time. So once I get the teeth on, I like to lute them down. Now they're not in position yet. I'm just kind of I'm basically getting a stronger bond on there so I can move them around without worrying about them falling off.